All right, so we're going to talk about a 501c3 and we'll contrast it with a 501c4. And the whole point of talking about this category of IRS designation is for income tax purposes for charitable giving. Okay, so the IRS Internal Revenue Service has a gazillion policies that get printed and they get numbered, and 501 is the general category, subsection C, subsection 3. Okay, so that's what this means. 501c3, it's locating it in the IRS's manuals. This is considered tax exempt for charitable donation. Now, churches can be 501c3, but they don't have to be 501c3. Okay. GBS is not a church, it's a 501c3 corporation. So all gifts to GBS are considered charitable contributions and therefore may be subtracted from taxes. Now, with the last tax cut package that Congress passed, they changed the standard deduction from $12,500 to approximately $24,000. So, what that essentially means is you will need to have given $24,000 in charitable contributions to have any reason to make use of them for income tax purposes. Okay? Why? Well, because here's the way it works. You've got two options when you're submitting your income tax. You can either take your standard deduction, or you can do what's called itemization. And you will itemize if you say, well, I gave, $10,000 in contributions to Goodwill. I gave $20,000 to God's Bible School. I gave $5,000 to my local orphanage. And therefore, that amount, which is going to be $35,000, is way more than the standard deduction, so I want to be able to provide receipts and proof that I gave charitably more than the standard deduction. Well, how much money do you have to be making in order to be giving more than $24,000? Even if you're giving 30% of your income, just 30% of your income, in order to get there, you'd have to be making $80,000 a year to be giving $24,000 at 30%. Right? And you'd have to be making $240,000 a year if that was your 10%. So, honestly, with this new tax code, tax-deductible giving for charitable purposes is kind of out the window. There's going to be no real tax benefit in charitable giving. Now, some people saw this as a very great negative about the recent tax law change, because they're afraid that the only reason people give money is so that they can deduct it on their taxes. Well, if you're a Christian, you should be giving for a completely different reason. Tax deduction just happens to be a cool benefit from having lived in the United States. Okay? So, for this purpose, basically I've quit worrying about keeping track of my charitable contributions, because there's no way that I'm going to be able to give more than $24,000. Okay? Now, if I inherited, let's say I inherited $1 million, then my tithes and charitable contributions would be larger than this, and I would want to make sure that I have a receipt, okay, and a voided check is not good enough. Okay, the IRS no longer accepts voided checks written to churches as a proof of donation. You have to have an official printed receipt from the charitable organization that says at the bottom of it, no tangible goods or services were received for this gift. Remember I told you last time that if you give $100 to GBS and then they send you a CD, you have to deduct the value of that CD from your $100 because that was a tangible benefit you received from your contribution. If the CD is worth $15, you only gave $85 charitably. Am I making sense? Any questions? Okay. Now, there are 501c4. And my understanding is these are non-profit organizations, so it's still non-profit. And I should have said this up here, non-profit. These are also non-profits, but they are taxed. And therefore, they are not charitable donations. So, for example, Focus on the Family spun off a political organization called Citizens. Published a Citizen magazine and other things. And they lobby on Capitol Hill. They send out mailings to notify people about election issues and so on. And it's a nonprofit, but I shouldn't have written text. Charitable donations are not tax exempt. That's what I wanted to say. Charitable donations not tax exempt. And let me just make sure you understand what tax exempt means. If just in case I haven't made this clear before, when you're figuring your income for your income tax, charitable donations get subtracted from your income amount, and then you get taxed only on what's left over after. So that's why this is considered tax exempt, because it's being subtracted from your income and then you're taxed here. Right? Now, in order for the people in your church to be able to claim their donations as charitable donations, your treasurer has to send them a list of all their contributions with a total and this statement about no tangible benefits received. Okay? So, tracking all this data really needs software. Okay? If you have a church of any size, how many checks are you going to get from everybody who writes checks, and which check number? And so the best, you can do it with spreadsheets, okay? But after time, there's the concern about are your spreadsheets backed up? Okay, are they in the cloud? So that if the treasurer's computer crashes and the hard drive's not recoverable, you don't lose all your church records. The church in Burlington, the treasurer uses QuickBooks. Okay, that's probably the most common small business software. QuickBooks is a product of Quicken, which used to be related to Intuit. I'm not sure if Quicken and Intuit are still the same company or not. I think they've once Intuit spun Quicken off. QuickBooks. And it allows automatic generation of reports, recording of all of this kind of data, so that at the end of the year you are ready to go. So out here under the Minister and Finance is Harold Foreman's Church and Personal Finance folder. And in the Church Finance folder, he has spreadsheets that are free and available for all of the standard church kind of record-keeping necessities. Budget and report, missions ledger, offering tally record, petty cash disbursement voucher. So what's that? Well, let's say that you don't want to have to write a check for the $3.68 item, so the pastor gets $50 in petty cash, but we've got to have a record that the pastor actually got the $50. Well, that's what that is. So I want to encourage you to look through that and remember that all these forms and materials are available to you. All right, that's it for today.